Radio.
And here's the thing. If there were to be a referendum, EU Brexit referendum, I know it's a nightmare scenario, isn't it, just to think about that. If there were to be another referendum today, how would you vote? Would you change your vote from how you voted last time? And I was just tempted on the back of that clip of Boris Johnson saying that there will be jobs created because of Brexit. This sadly falls against the backdrop of Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his Land Rover of Doom that has legged it from South Wales over to France. It was only, just a shy of a year ago that Number 10 put out a big tweet saying the amount of jobs this will create is going to be amazing. A year down the line, he's saying, sorry, I'm off. And this guy was a Brexiteer, by the way. What happened there? Business before Brexit. 0344 499 1000. There's a kind of a counselling session thing here, because we know that, but let me explain what's happening here. Boris Johnson's flying to Brussels later for talks on this post-Brexit deal with the European Commission President. This is Ursula von der Leyen. Time running out, of course, to reach that deal by the 31st of December. This is when the UK stop following EU trading rules. So they're going to, as I mentioned to Mike Graham, they're going to hold talks over dinner, which always seems to be a rather clunky way to hold talks, doesn't it? I mean, the time you are most impeded to talk is when you've got half a pound of bacon in your mush. I mean, it tends to strike me as not being particularly conducive. You could be slobbering, spitting. It's just, nice muscles. The vol-au-vents are a bit tasty, Prime Minister. Nonetheless, this appears to be how it works at that heady level of negotiations. They're having dinner and they're going to negotiate to try and end the deadlock. Major disagreements remain on fishing rights, business competition rules, and how a deal will be policed. 0344 499 1000. And I just saw this story this morning, and it was just leaping at me again and again. That, and I make no apologies for kind of revisiting. We asked a very similar question just a couple of weeks back on this. And there's almost a self-indulgent counselling session as part of this. And when I say self-indulgent, I'm talking about anybody else listening to this. One of the privileges of this job is that if you're not too sure about something and you're wondering which way the wind is blowing, talkRADIO just offers such a unique platform to gauge a whole raft of views and opinions on things, where you sort of begin to, you either concur or revise or disagree. A unique sounding board of real people, not a sort of sanitised version of a phone-in programme, just real people who say, actually, this is how it's going to work, this is how it will affect me or not affect me. And although we've probably over the last 4.5 years, I would imagine this issue has come up time and time again. So I make no apology for a revisit here, but this is born out of exasperation, really. And it's born out of a little bit of fear. There's a genuine sense of, I'm now slightly uncomfortable as to where this Brexit story is likely to go. And there are two reasons for that. I'll explain what those reasons are. Number one is I'm sort of already sensing a diluting of what many people thought they were going to get. And the detail is nearly always in the small print with these things. And if you just dig a little deeper than some of the headlines, people celebrating thumbs up from Michael Gove, Boris Johnson's oven ready, you often find that we're actually still wedded to more agreements than you might have imagined. We already know after yesterday that Michael Gove has already conceded on some issues. I wonder where this takes Boris Johnson, all bar a spectacular no-deal scenario, which I don't think Boris Johnson wants his legacy to be the bloke that came back with nothing. I think he wants his legacy to be the bloke that came back with something better than we already have. That's surely the headline that he would be craving right now, isn't it? This is what we used to have. If he comes back with, if he says it's a no deal and we're going anyway, although there is a school of thought that that's exactly how we should do it, perhaps a stupid school of thought, according to some schools of thought. Nonetheless, surely the headline that Boris Johnson would crave would be, I've come back with something infinitely better than we used to have. That must be what he wants. And that's where I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, because I've heard so many vacuous platitudes wheeled out over the last 4.5 years, on all sides of this, by the way, that what I want is a a Brexit that will do what he just said in the House of Commons not an hour ago, will create more jobs. I want a Brexit that's going to be put us in a better position, a far more powerful position, a position that really does mark us out as a country that is independent of another tier of bureaucracy, i.e. the EU. That was the whole point, right? I mean, Remainers will tell you it was all of it because of a load of racists didn't like the foreigners, so they wanted to leave. And that sort of level of hogwash is unhelpful, and it's unfair, and it's inaccurate. But in terms of where it goes now, I just sense, I'm looking at this thinking, I just cannot at the moment fathom or even begin to create enough confidence in my Prime Minister. Remember, this is the man that gave the most rabble-rousing speech about Independence Day, which I think widely turned it. It tipped the scales for many people. And of course, he was on that stage. That was at Wembley, wasn't it? He gave that speech. And he was on that stage with Labour politicians as well, because there was a sort of cross-party sense that this was the argument they were making. And I thought, right, if this guy's in charge of this, then this could be big. This could be great. And he's talking about creating jobs. And he's talking about, there's a whole manner of things that he's thrown into the oven-ready deal. And right now, as I sit here, and I don't want to feel like this, I don't want to feel like this about my Prime Minister, I just don't have confidence that this man's going to come back with something that's better than we currently have. So does that change your mind on... at the moment, it doesn't change my mind on how I voted. But does it change your mind on how you voted? 0344 499 1000. I don't want to feel a sense of unease. I want to feel the same sense I felt when Boris Johnson stood up there at Wembley and said, tomorrow could be our Independence Day. And we all thought, that is incredible. It's incredibly powerful. If anyone can sell enthusiasm, Boris Johnson can. And even delving below the veneer of enthusiasm, I think there's detail there. I think this can happen. I'll say it again for the umpteenth time. The EU is not a law of physics. We haven't been in this club for 500 years. We've been in it less than 50. Of course, a country can make it happen. Japan, Canada, and others, they're the two obvious examples, will show you, of course you can. You can't be an independent state of the EU. This is some kind of Derren Brown illusion. Of course you can. But now I'm watching Boris Johnson looking less sure than ever before. I'm watching Michael Gove perhaps conceding to things. I'm watching jobs go. I'm watching a multi-millionaire leg it from the hills of South Wales over to France with his car company. I don't want to see those kind of headlines. Does any of this change your perception or your intention? I mean, to the point that if there was a referendum today, would you vote differently? And already on social media, when I threw this question out, there are lots of people who will actually, who previously had been Remainers, who will now vote Brexit. And that's fine, because it's that sort of enthusiasm I want to hear. I'm almost looking for someone to say, don't worry, Ian, it's going to be okay. 0344 499 1000. Maybe that's a better way to phrase the question. Is everything going to be all right? But you take my point. Would it change for you? Has it changed significantly if you look at what is happening? The EU are playing hardball. I don't blame them for that. That's what they're meant to do. But of course, and I can't be the only person that keeps raising this over the last few days, the EU are playing a completely different game anyway. We're trying to negotiate a business deal. They're trying to negotiate an ideological deal. This is deep-rooted into the DNA of the likes of Barnier. And even if you go to Macron and Merkel, people who aren't, these aren't mad lefties, by the way, anything but. But the whole EU thing is a very different thing to them. It's a whole different concept and notion to them. They are the formulative partners of the entire thing. So in that respect, the negotiating position from the word go is kind of a slightly upside down, because we just want a business deal. But they want something that still looks like they're calling shots, and therefore they want to put a firework up the trouser leg of any other future leader of any EU country that might consider at any point doing the same thing. So they're playing that game as well. And they want there to be some kind of connection. They want to remain in some sort of dominant position. Now, again, if I was them, that's probably what I'd be doing. But you begin to see the ridiculousness of these negotiations. How could it ever be that they're simply not negotiating from the same place to begin with. 0344 499 1000 is where you will find us. And I'll throw it out. There's a couple of things there. If there was a referendum today, how would you vote? I'm bound to ask that. Yes, I know it's Route 1, but I'm not going to apologise for that because look where we're at. But secondly, when Boris Johnson can we just hear that clip again, Amy, of Boris Johnson? This is him speaking in the House of Commons not an hour ago.
What I can say is that this country will be ready for whether we have a Canadian or an Australian solution, and there will be jobs created in this country throughout the whole of the UK, not just in spite of Brexit, but because of Brexit.
There it is right there. That's the bit that's the bit I'm interested to nail down, because ultimately this comes down to jobs, right? If it creates jobs, fantastic. What if you were to wet your finger and stick it in the air? What are you sensing in the job department? Bearing in mind, we've got coronavirus rumbling away in the background and the economy decimated as a result of the lunacy of some elements of what we had to do, or what they decided they had to do in response. Tell me about those new jobs. Tell me about job creation. Tell me about, on your neck of the woods, where you're seeing chinks of light. It might not be huge right now, but you can certainly begin to see just the fire beginning to light under the journey of success. Job creation. Because bottom line, it's about job creation, right? More jobs. Brexit will give us more jobs. There'll be more industry. And that's going to be such a tough one at the moment. Not in spite of it, but because of it. They were his words. Are you feeling it, seeing it, experiencing it? 0344 499 1000. When I tried to look for an example of that, the first thing that came up today was Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He's the Land Rover boy who's leaving South Wales for France. And he was a Brexiteer, by the way.